I once heard of a story about a Chinese farmer who lost a horse. His horse basically ran away. And all the neighbors came around that evening and said, "Well, that's too bad, isn't it?" To which he replied, "Maybe." The next day the horse came back, and surprisingly, the horse brought back 7 wild horses along with it. And all the neighbors came around once again and said to him, "Wow, that's great, isn't it?" To which he replied, "Maybe." The following day his son was attempting to tame one of these horses, and as he was riding one of the horses, he was thrown away and he fell and then broke his leg. And all the neighbors came around that evening and said, "Well, that's too bad, isn't it?" To which he replied, "Maybe." And the next day the conscription officers came around looking for people for the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came around that evening and said, "Isn't that wonderful?" To which he replied, "Maybe." You see, the whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it is really impossible to tell whether anything that happens to you is good or bad, because you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You never know what will be the consequences of a misfortune, or you never know what will be the consequences of a good fortune. Everything is interconnected and operates as a unified system. This interconnectedness implies that events and outcomes are not isolated, but rather part of a larger web of cause and effect. What may initially appear as a misfortune or a stroke of luck might have unforeseen consequences down the line. This suggests that our judgments of events and their outcomes may be limited by our inability to fully grasp the long-term implications. You never really know how things are eventually going to turn out. Sometimes we make premature conclusions on a particular event, situation, or circumstance. The mind is usually always quick to make a judgment, and this usually causes it to misinterpret the event. In the next video, we are going to dive into this concept a bit more. We will be showing you ways in which you can respond to circumstances and events in your life rather than reacting. In addition, we will show you how to take full control of your emotional world. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time we upload a new content. In the meantime, the next time you run into a good fortune or a misfortune, just when your mind starts drawing up conclusions about it, and it's about to define it or assign a meaning to it, pause for 1 second, take a deep breath in, and just like the Chinese farmer, say to yourself, maybe,